Under the gray, gloomy sky of Pennsylvania, Hurricane Agnes howled like a wild beast, tearing through everything in its path. The Smurl family, Jack, Janet, their 4 young children, and their simple dream, were swept away in the raging floodwaters. Their beloved home in Wilkes-Barre was now nothing but rubble, forcing them to seek new shelter. West Pittston, a small, peaceful town, seemed like the light at the end of the tunnel. They moved into an old duplex nestled on Chase Street, where Jack's parents were already living. A new beginning, or so they thought. But darkness had been waiting, lurking within the rotting walls. The house, with its peeling paint and cracks like dried veins, breathed the aura of decay. The Smurls, full of hope, began to renovate. They wielded brushes, hammered nails, trying to breathe life into the place. But every stroke of paint, every bang of the hammer, seemed to awaken something not of this world. Tools vanished, only to mysteriously reappear hours later, as if toyed with by an invisible hand. Stains on the walls, despite being carefully painted over, would bleed through like old blood, defying all efforts to erase them. At night, a revolting stench filled the house, as if rotting flesh was decomposing somewhere in the shadows. It didn't just pass through, it clung, seeping into every finger, every breath of the family. Kitchen appliances, the oven, the blender, suddenly caught fire despite not being plugged in. The hiss of flames and the acrid smell of burning served as a warning. They were not alone. Janet began to feel unseen eyes watching her, cold touches on her skin, as if a presence was observing, waiting. Jack, though trying to stay calm, could no longer deny the growing sense of unease. The house, once meant to be a haven, now felt like a trap. Every shadowed corner, every small sound carried a whisper of menace. In their attempt to build a home, the Smurl family had unknowingly disturbed the slumber of something that had long dwelled in the house, patiently waiting for new souls to torment. They didn't know that beneath the peaceful facade of West Pittston, a nightmare was slowly opening its eyes. The darkness in the house on Chase Street was no longer just lurking, it had awakened, ferocious and ravenous. By 1974, the Smurl family could feel the icy breath of a nameless entity, like a silent predator tightening its grip. The early signs, foul odors, creeping stains, were merely the prelude to a symphony of horror. The house, once painted with hope, had become a prison of living nightmares. Janet was the first to face its terror. She heard her name called out in the darkness, a voice identical to her mother-in-law Mary's. But when she rushed to check, Mary was either fast asleep or unconscious. At the same time, Mary claimed to hear Janet calling her, even though Janet hadn't uttered a word. These eerie whispers felt like cruel tricks, making them question their own sanity. But that was just the beginning. Electrical appliances continued to burst into flames, black smoke curling like the breath of hell. Newly replaced pipes began leaking, turning the floors into swampy puddles reeking of death. Everything seemed determined to drain the family's last reserves of strength. When night fell, the house became a stage for terror. Shannon, the 7-year-old daughter, would wake up paralyzed in fear, her eyes locked on ghostly figures hovering above her bed, blank, empty stares fixed on her. One night, she was lifted by an invisible force and hurled against the wall like a puppet on strings. Even the family dog Simon wasn't spared. He was lifted into the air, his terrified eyes pleading for salvation. Janet, in restless sleep, felt herself levitating from the bed, her body violated by cold, unseen hands that left her screaming in despair. Jack, trying to be the rock for his family, was not beyond the entity's reach. One night, as he slept beside Janet, the blanket was violently yanked off him. Dozens of invisible hands grabbed at him, dragging him into a waking nightmare. The house was no longer a refuge, it was an arena where the Smurl family was being hunted. Growls and clawing noises echoed from inside the walls every night, as if a demon was sharpening its talons, waiting for the perfect moment to devour their souls. With every passing second, the darkness thickened, and the Smurls realized they weren't just living with a curse, they were being consumed by it. The house on Chase Street had become a purgatory, a prison of terror from which the Smurl family could not escape. The darkness no longer merely stalked, it growled, clawed, and tore at their spirits, intent on breaking their will. In desperation, they turned to Ed and Lorraine Warren, renowned paranormal investigators. Lorraine, with her heightened senses, declared that the house was haunted by 4 entities, 3 human spirits, a withered old woman, a young woman filled with hatred, and a murderous man, and one powerful demon orchestrating them all, feeding on fear to grow stronger. The first exorcism, performed by Father McKenna, not only failed but enraged the demon. It retaliated with greater violence. Janet was hurled against the wall, and Jack came face to face with a monstrous creature, half man, half pig, its glowing red eyes growling at the doorway. The demon was no longer bound to the house. It followed the family, a malevolent shadow clinging to them. Even when they went camping to escape, it lurked nearby, turning each moment into a living hell. The nightmare peaked when their daughter Karen nearly died from a mysterious fever that baffled doctors. In a desperate plea for help, the Smurls reached out to the media, hoping someone might save them. But instead of support, they were met with ridicule and twisted curiosity. Crowds gathered outside their home, staring at them like animals in a cage. A psychic, Mary Alice Brinkman, confirmed the presence of 4 entities, but admitted she was powerless to stop them. Finally, the Scranton Diocese and several priests joined forces to perform a collective exorcism. This time the ritual seemed to work. 3 peaceful months passed. But just before Christmas of 1986, the demon returned. Jack once again faced the beast, which snarled, demanding to take possession of him. Clutching his rosary, he prayed, and the demon vanished. But the peace was only an illusion. The attacks resumed, fiercer than before. Drained and desperate, the Smurls scraped together enough money to leave the haunted house and move to a new town. Yet the demon followed, like a curse that refused to be broken. In 1988, a final exorcism was performed at their new home. This one appeared to bring lasting peace. But the question lingered, had they truly escaped the darkness or merely hidden it for a while? Perhaps those early renovations, the innocent hammering, the attempts to revive an old house, had awakened an ancient entity, and the Smurls became its prey. Is that darkness still out there, watching and waiting for a new home to call its own?